All right, it's the most important thing. All you guys plan your trips, you get your rods ready, you got your lunch packed, you got your camp gear, whatever you're doing, and guess what? You forget to check your wheel bearings. I know this because you guys call me, and it's a panic mode because you burn up this bearing, and what does it do? You drove on this bearing bad. It usually puts so much pressure on the opposite bearing because they're not working together. It burns that one out too. So one of those things I preach. Check these bearings. It's too cheap, too easy to do, because if you get stuck on the side of the road, it's going to be very, very expensive and very ruin your whole weekend. You know, you worked all week and you want to go play, and now you're stuck on the side of the road at 6 in the morning. You head to the coast or wherever you're going, you know, in the mountains or where you're at. So basically, I'm just going to go through with you guys. This is a good wheel bearing. I know it's not bad. This is an old Bruiser trailer. It's for sale here at Clackacraft. So I'm going to disassemble it and show you guys how to do this. Best thing you do is we have these, you can call us, I think they might be online too, is buy these hub kits. Basically, it's a preloaded hub. So if you got down the road and you start feeling this, something happened, you could have this, in your back of your truck and toolbox, wherever you might keep it. And it comes with everything. I mean, it comes with a new dust cap. It comes with the new key, a couple assortments of different styles, I think, and there's different extra lug nuts. I mean, it's got everything in there. 2 different dust caps. So basic, it's a little bit universal, depending on maybe the brand of trailer, but most of your drift boat trailers are going to all use the standard. I think this is a Dexter type axle, and use the same hub on this. If you got a Clackacraft trailer or an Adams manufactured trailer, I think even the Caravans and some other drift boat trailers will work. This will work on it. And also, I did this for you guys too. This is kind of a keep it on the wall back bar shipping. You may have to cross-reference this. I couldn't tell you exact brand of this thing, but if you have these numbers, this is your inner bearing and your outer bearing. The inner bearing's a little bit bigger, outer bearing's a little bit smaller, and those are the numbers you cross-reference if you're somewhere along the road and you need to get some bearings from a auto parts store. Most of your auto parts stores too carry these. I 100% know for a fact they carry both these bearings in a kit. You may have to match them up, but you can get them there. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of loosen these lug nuts up already. I've got my gloves on here because it can get messy. Time to cough. Let's do it here. Get in here and get I already got my floor jack back here. A little easier when I don't have a boat on it to show you guys this stuff. But I'm going to pop this guy off. We get a lot of used trailers here at Clackacraft too. So if you're in need of a trailer and you don't want to spend money on a new trailer, they're kind of expensive now. Check with us because we do have these refurbished trailers. Like this one, we put new carpeted bunks on. This is one of the little bit more rougher ones, but this is still a very viable trailer. We threw a new winch stand on the front there. So keep that in mind if you guys are getting to a point where your trailer's, maybe so corroded and not very road worthy anymore. Check out our used trailer supply too. So get these guys off. And again, this is a brand new, this has been a refurbished trailer, so we got a brand new hub. One of these hub kits got thrown on there. So way you can check your bearings too. This is obviously, I just took the lug nuts off, but you can come in here and actually jack it up and move. The lug nuts are loose here, but if you can do this, you got a bad bearing. This is just because it's loose, but I wanted to show you that. If you can go in here and go a little click, 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 you need to either adjust your castle nut, which is the nut that kind of holds this on the spindle. The spindle is the piece that comes off the axle that the bearings ride on. And that's something I'll talk about the spindle as well. If it gets damaged, at some point you may have to replace the whole axle, which sucks because these spindles are part of the axle. They're not a replaceable spindle, but get the tire out of the way here. Again, that's a brand new hub. I've on this guy already. I'm going to go ahead and just take it off and show you. This is a torsion flex axle. It's a Dexter axle here. It's an easy loop system, and I'll show you that here in a second. So basically, you put grease in when there's a Zerk fitting under here. When you put the grease in, it goes in the back, actually, the spindle, and pushes forward. So therefore, you can actually clear all contaminants out of that. You could actually put new grease in here, and you can see it come out when you do that. So, which is a really nice system they've done on these axles. You don't need, with this system, a bearing buddy. Those are for systems that don't have Dexter Easy Lube. I've seen it more often than not where somebody's put a bearing buddy on these axles. And bearing buddy, what it does is actually for an older trailer, it allows to push grease into the axle. Where if you do that with this, you're going to end up probably blowing out your rear seal. And they do have springs on bearing buddies, so you can see what's happening. It kind of springs out as you put grease in it, and you can look those up. But again, you don't need those with this. This is a dust cap. Here you pop it off and I'll show you what it looks like underneath there. This is just a little rubber cap. So if you're just going to grease it, you can pop this little rubber cap off here. Try not to tear it. They tear it. As you can see, that's brand new, been greased. There's the Zerk fitting there. And again, you can see with these, as you grease this, you'll actually see this outside ring right here. The grease will push this direction. So you could actually have old, dirty, grimy grease in there, and you could put this new, this is Haviline wheel bearing grease that we use. It's kind of a red grease. And as you push that out, you can actually push all that old grease out, and you'll put new grease in there. This dust cap, and I can show you, well, I'll show you in a second here, but it's, it's a little, probably a little oversized. And so when you tap these in, it grabs. And so therefore it's basically seated in there and sealed. So I'm gonna take a flathead screwdriver and try to get in here gently. Nice things, those new kits come with, and you can see right there, I just got it separated enough where I'm gonna get it out. I'm just gonna work it around here. And you can see dust kit, dust cover. It's not very deep in there. It's about a 1/4 inch in, but these have a little rib on them right there, and they're just a little oversized. They taper down so you can tap them back in. When you go to put these back in too, and I'll show you that, you want to evenly tap these in. And this is aluminum, so it bends really easy. See, when they greased this, they grabbed a little bit with them and pulled it off with a pair of pliers. Whoever did that, but again, that's just a dust cap. Keep the dust and grime out of there. You can look back here, you can see the castle nut in here. It's got a keeper on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and wipe all that off. It's gonna be kind of messy. So if you're on the side of the road without the right tools, you're gonna be dealing with a mess. But you can see this has also got a flat spot here. So there's only one way to put that keeper on there. And this one just kind of snaps around the nut. Evenly work it. This stuff can be kind of finicky and bend really easy. So basically that just snaps over and grabs the nut, and then it's got this flat spot here. So it keeps that nut from wanting to back off, because if it didn't have something to keep that nut in place, it would just back off and go. Where this little guy grabs it, the corners of the nut itself, and actually keeps it in place so it doesn't spin off. Go back in here. See the nut now that I've done that? Usually you can almost grab it and twist it around in there. So I'm going to see if I can maybe just tap it back a little bit. Yeah, there you go. See, I got that tapped around. It should come off really easy. And when you tighten these down, I'll show you too how to do that. But I'm going to go ahead and pop it off. And you can see how easy, for the most part, if you had a hammer and a flat screwdriver, you could pretty much do this whole job. Oh yeah, nice and messy. And of course this one's gonna, because it knows I'm filming it, it's gonna be stubborn here. There we go. Probably outside of that thread's a little. Then I'm doing it just like this to show you guys, because if you didn't have a big crescent wrench or something, this is how you'd have to do it. I do got obviously a shop here with a bunch of tools, but and everything with the hammer and the screwdriver, got that out. Look at that. I'm gonna be careful not to get any, if you're on the side of the road, grime or grit on this. So if you had something to lay all this stuff on, try to keep it from getting contaminants on it, because a little rock or a piece of sand could really mess up bearings. So try not to get that if you don't have to. All right, so I got this sand loose. Sometimes these can, if you had a bad bearing at this point, you might see a lot of stuff going on in here. Beans, maybe stuff starting to fall apart. I don't know, every situation's a little different, but I'm going to gently, this is a new one, pull it off, try to keep everything together, if it's not bad. And you can see I got everything there. That bearing actually just fell out my hand. See, there's the outer bearing. See how it rides in, right there on this seal there. A race, they call it, excuse me, a bearing and a race. These are replaceable, but I don't know on this particular hub, I don't think it is. Oh, it is actually, it's a separate piece in there. But you'll know if your bearings were shattered and falling apart, it's gonna be really noticeable. At that point, you're gonna go, this thing's, be easier for me on the side of the road just to go ahead you know, put this in the box and go ahead and pull out the new hub. At this point, this new hub's, you know, comes greased. See, it's greased now. Basically, it's the same hub as this. So now I have this new hub. It's going to come, make sure everything, this is holding that bearing in place there that just fell out my hand. So I'm going to pretend like this is, you know, the new bearing here. And you can see this kit comes with, again, a kind of a sealed dust cap. This is the one that I just took off. A new nut. So if you had all this stuff, they're all the new stuff on. Kind of cool. It comes with extra lug nuts and stuff too. But I'm going to pretend like this is that one. So now I got this new hub here. I'm going to look at my spindle, because if this thing was shattered or fell apart, you know, you're going to want to clean this spindle. I'm not going to wipe it down because I know it's good right now, but look for any damage to it. This is what the bearings are riding on. And what happens, though, if you rode on a bearing really bad, you could really do some damage to this. And when that happens, that's when guys have called and said, hey, I keep burning bearings up. Maybe you didn't notice it, but you did damage to this. You're going to want to think about replacing an axle. And they're not horrible, but it's finding one or being close to us or getting it shipped to you. I think they're around $500, give or take, time of year, what's going on in the world. So you'd have to replace this. You can clean these. I wouldn't say sand them, but you can clean them. If you had a little bit of something going on, you can get some emery cloth and come in here and wipe these down, clean the best you can. But let's say you did do damage to this. You're in the middle of nowhere. You have this hub kit. You're probably I think these hub kits are like $80. Sacrifice a hub to get you back down the road. You could clean this to the best of your ability. Take your replacement hub, throw it on there. Just keep an eye on it, and maybe it'll get you down the road, you know, another 100 miles. But over time, that's going to, you know, dilapidate and fall apart on you. So yeah, you know, that's something to keep an eye on. Check this stuff. This is an older used trailer, but somebody's probably taking pretty good care of it for the most part. It looks like it's still viable and doing well. Got both my bearings, but set that back in there. The back bearing, this is a seal here that's holding that in place. And that's what I was talking about earlier. If you put a bearing buddy, which is this device you can put on the front to replace the dust cap, and push grease out, you can blow these seals out. So you'll start getting grease built up back in here and slinging all over your boat and stuff. And this one, again, it's a Dexter Easy Lube. You can't really see where it comes out, but you can see the grease goes in here and comes out the back of the spindle back here and comes forward and pushes grease this direction. So it's lubing it for you. You can see if you go on here nice and gentle, get this back on there. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that bearing's in place. Looks good to me. Come back in here. Say I got my replacement nut. Get it on there. See, I can push that bearing back all the way in there. See how easy this guy's going to want to go back on for me. There we go. Put that back in there. Got my new hub on there. Okay, just doing it all by hand here. It's going to sit right inside this. You kind of see it there. Again, if you had a crescent wrench or something, you can see it still needs to go in a little bit more. Feel it. I don't want it to be too tight, but now I can see there's no movement. Basically, tap it down to where you like it, not too stiff. Feels good right there. It's turning pretty easy. It's tight, not going back and forth. This is when you have to kind of come in here and see if you got the right corners. You might have to tap it back or forward or back a little bit. You want these corners of this nut to fall into place on this keeper on the edges. And some of these can be different on different trailers. That's why there's a couple different combinations of it. Basically, you can see I'm pretty dang close. I might want to go, I don't want to go forward anymore because that's going to be too tight. That's going to be pretty much another quarter turn there. So I'm going to just tap it back just a hair. There we go. And that's nice and smooth. Again, you can see that right there. I'm going to try to get the corners of the nuts in there. And looks pretty good. I can see the corner there. It's going to fall right there. And get that in there. Come on. Or maybe back just a hair more. Okay, there it is. There it goes. There we go. I found my corner I liked right there. That's sitting on that one. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to keep this from spinning, but basically you can see that keeper's keeping it there. The nut's just barely moving. And you can see that nut doesn't have to be, you're not tightening it down. It's just got to be perfect right on there. And sometimes just barely turning it, you can get too stiff, but you can see right here, that's good. I don't have any rocking. It's perfect. It's just going to float on there. You're not over tightening it. You're just going to find that sweet spot where it's going to, sit just right, and then tap this guy back on. So basically that's it. Now you're going to come back with your replacement dust cap. It's probably good to replace these if you got a new one. And put this back on place here. Again, these are really easy to bend. If you have a block of wood, sometimes it's easier to put like a 2x4 block of wood here and then tap the wood and do it evenly. I've done enough to be dangerous here, so I'm going to just work it around in circles. Try not to bend it and beat it. Let's see. Can even do that. There we go, back on. I don't have a grease gun right now to grease it for you guys, but basically you're going to grease this. Again, they come preloaded, so you're on the side of the road, you don't need to worry about that. If you get down the road, you want to check the grease, you can always do that, but there's enough grease in there right now to satisfy me and have this hub on there just right. You're going to do that, and then I got my little, whatever I did with it, I think I did over here, rubber dust cap here. Again, that's just to keep the dust and grime out of there. It's serviceable that way. The full metal one wouldn't be serviceable. You have to take the cap, you have to take it off every time. And then just kind of work these guys back in and make sure you don't tear these. People have a tendency to take a screwdriver to pop them off and they tear them. It's going to make a mess all over the place if you do that. And then clean everything the best you can. Got that going again. It feels good. I like it. I mean, that's it pretty much. And again, if you just had bearings, you could replace those bearings in that hub too. That would be these guys here if you didn't have a whole hub kit. Because I don't know if they'll have those at the auto parts store. I guess it just depends on what store you're at and you're going to. You could just basically pop both those out, and then they'd come with that rear seal, which you just take a screwdriver and you can pop that guy out on the rear side, and then your bearing pops right out too. And most of those kits you can find at the auto parts store will come with the bearing, the front bearing, the rear bearing, and that rear seal, which you'll do. Basically, if I did this, you'll tap that seal in real gently after you clean it, after you put the bearing in place, and then slide it back on. So that's kind of a quick rundown there on replacing a hub on the side of the road. Again, these kits, they can really save your butt. They're right around $80, depending on when you're watching this video. It might go up and down, I'm not sure, but they're universal, so they come with, you're not going to use all the parts. They're going to come with, you might only use the hub part and use your old castle nut on there and keeper. But you got it, so you might as well use that stuff. There's some different things in here, universal-wise, you can put in there and ride on it. Depends on the type of system you have. Some of them have a washer that you put in place between that nut and the actual spindle. You can put that on there. So again, that's the video. So thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions or concerns, please give me a call anytime here at the Clackacraft or jake@clackacraft.com. And I appreciate you watching the videos. Thanks. Like and subscribe.